There's something magical about Studio Ghibli films, not just in the flying castles, the enchanted forests, or the whimsical creatures, but in the silence, the stillness, the moments when nothing is said, yet everything is felt. If you've ever found yourself lost in those quiet scenes, watching a character sit alone beneath a dusky sky, or walk through a sunlit field with no dialogue, no action, just presence, then you've already touched the essence of what Ghibli is truly about. Beneath the surface of fantasy and animation lies something much deeper, a spiritual truth about solitude, transformation, and the hidden power of being alone. Ghibli doesn't just entertain, it awakens something in you. It gently reminds you that loneliness, though often feared, is not your enemy. In fact, it might be your most powerful teacher. From Totoro's still presence in the forest to Howl's inner struggle with identity, Ghibli characters constantly encounter moments of deep isolation. But what's remarkable is how these films never frame loneliness as a weakness. There's no panic, no rush to fix or escape it. Instead, Ghibli treats solitude as sacred, as something necessary for growth. And when you pay close attention, you start to realize these characters aren't just fictional, they're reflections of your own emotional and spiritual journey. They show us how to endure, how to evolve, and most importantly, how to come home to ourselves. Take Totoro, for example. In My Neighbor Totoro, Satsuki and Mei are dealing with the uncertainty and emotional weight of their mother's illness. They've moved to a rural village, far from friends and familiarity. Their father is busy with work. Their days are quiet. At first glance, it seems like a recipe for sadness, but then Totoro appears, a large, mystical creature who doesn't speak, doesn't instruct, and doesn't judge. He simply exists. He shows up in the quiet, not to fill the space with noise, but to share it. Totoro teaches us something many of us forget in today's overstimulated world. That presence, a simple, grounded presence, can be healing. That just because you're alone doesn't mean you're abandoned. In fact, in moments of true solitude, you might discover the most comforting presence of all your own. Totoro's forest isn't just a physical place. It's a metaphor for the inner sanctuary we can all access when we stop resisting silence, when we stop trying to numb our loneliness and instead sit with it, breathe with it, let it teach us. In a world that constantly tells us to stay busy and move on, Totoro invites us to slow down, to observe, and to trust that peace can grow in the most unexpected places. Then, there's Ponyo, a curious magical fish who dreams of becoming human. Her story, on the surface, seems lighthearted and whimsical, but underneath, it carries a powerful metaphor. Ponyo leaves her entire world behind her home, her comfort zone, even her identity, all in search of love and connection. In doing so, she faces isolation not just physically, but spiritually. She no longer fits in the underwater world she came from, and she hasn't yet found her place in the human world. She's caught in the in-between. That space of transition, of uncertainty, of solitude, is something so many of us can relate to. Have you ever felt like you don't fully belong anywhere? Like you're no longer the person you used to be, but not yet who you're becoming? That's Ponyo's journey, and what Ghibli shows us through her transformation is that this in-between space, while often uncomfortable and lonely, is also where the magic happens. It's where identity is reborn, where innocence meets courage, where the soul stretches, grows, and steps into a new form. Ponyo reminds us that loneliness isn't always about being alone. It's about leaving behind what no longer fits and learning to trust the unknown. And in that space of trust, real transformation unfolds. Now, let's talk about Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. He's charming, powerful, mysterious, but also deeply wounded. He lives in a literal moving castle, constantly on the run, never staying in one place, always avoiding the truth. Howl's loneliness is different. It's not just circumstantial, it's internal. It's the loneliness that comes from hiding, from the fear of being truly seen. Beneath all his magic and glamour, Howl is terrified of vulnerability. He's afraid that if someone sees the real him, they'll reject him, or worse, he'll lose himself. Enter Sophie, cursed to live in the body of an old woman. She too is navigating isolation, suddenly cut off from her youth, her beauty, her sense of identity. But unlike Howl, Sophie leans into her solitude. She doesn't run, she adapts. She finds strength in her new form, And through her grounded presence, Howl begins to confront the very thing he's spent his life avoiding: himself. He starts to accept his flaws, to face his pain, and eventually, to love. Howl's story teaches us that sometimes the greatest curse isn't what life does to us, it's the way we abandon ourselves in response. Loneliness, when we stop avoiding it, becomes the mirror through which we finally see who we are. It's in that silence, in that stillness, that true healing begins. Ghibli shows us that running from our pain only deepens loneliness, but turning toward it, embracing it, can make us whole. What ties all of these stories together is the idea that solitude isn't a pause in the journey, it is a journey. Ghibli doesn't glamorize isolation, but it doesn't pathologize it either. Instead, it reveals how moments of stillness, silence, and reflection can be the most transformative chapters of our lives. In these films, characters don't need to be rescued from their loneliness. They need to listen to it, learn from it, and allow it to shape them. In Spirited Away, Chihiro begins her journey terrified and alone in a strange, spirit-filled world. Her parents have disappeared. She has no allies. But as she moves through that loneliness, learning, observing, growing, she transforms from a frightened girl into someone courageous, compassionate, and wise. The spirits don't save her. The magic doesn't save her. She saves herself by embracing the challenge, by trusting her intuition, by allowing the experience of solitude to build her from the inside out. This is Ghibli's hidden message, that loneliness isn't the end of something, it's the beginning of self-awareness, of strength, of authenticity. In a world that often tells us we need to find our people or never be alone, Ghibli dares to say something different. You are already whole. Your aloneness is not a deficiency. It's a sacred space where your soul can finally breathe. And maybe that's why Ghibli films feel so healing, because they don't rush us. They don't try to fill every silence with noise. They allow space. They let us feel. And they remind us that it's okay to be in the process, that it's okay not to have everything figured out, that maybe, just maybe, being alone doesn't mean something's wrong. It might mean something sacred is happening within you. So, if you're going through a quiet season right now, if you feel distanced, disconnected, or like the world has pressed pause on your plans, don't panic. Don't numb it. Sit with it. Walk through it. Let the silence speak to you. Let the stillness show you what's been buried beneath the noise. Because in that space, you're not breaking down, you're breaking through. Ghibli doesn't just tell fantasy stories, it gives us spiritual maps. Maps that gently guide us through the shadowlands of loneliness into the open fields of self-acceptance. And if you follow that path, you might just find that every Ghibli character eventually discovers peace not outside you, but within. So the next time you watch a Ghibli film, pay attention to the quiet. Watch what happens in the pauses, the sighs, the wordless moments. That's where the real story is unfolding. That's where wisdom lives. And maybe, just maybe, that's where you'll begin to hear your own.